Okay.
Okay.
So
I need to get comfy here.
let's tilt it down a little
There we go.
bit. Okay. So the question was, how did you get the ability to do the Russian leg lifts, where you pull yourself from a full leg lift to an invert?
Step one was to have healthy shoulders. Step two was to drink a lot of vodka. Yeah, I never did it sober at any point. So once my shoulders got healed to the point where I could go from, originally I could only do leg lifts in general from a bent arm position because my rotator cuffs were fucked. So once John and I went through the rehab for that, I was able to just do leg lifts from this kind of position, straight arm. And I was able to develop a lot of that hanging technique, so I felt my grip strength was strong enough. Basically, with the Russian leg lifts, it's strengthening all the parts of it. So strengthening your grip enough to hang, strengthening your shoulders enough to be able to move, and then having a really strong core. It's basically just doing a regular leg lift and then leaning back. So once all those parts were strong, then you figure out the mechanics of the movement itself. And it was surprisingly, doable. It's surprisingly attainable.
What'd you get? 17 of them?
Yeah, around that.
That's crazy.
Right, something like that, yeah.
So grip,
shoulders, core, hip flexibility.
yeah.
And then also the willingness to just trust your grip enough to go upside down. Because the mental component of like, whoa, he's upside down, is that's definitely a stumbling block that needs to be worked as hard as things like core tension and things like grip control and strength in general.
Yeah, so you're saying the mental game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I find that's overlooked a lot with coaches. They don't feel, as far as sports specific training or movement specific training, I don't think they take that into account as a variable that you need to consider a person needs to develop. You know what I mean? It's like it's all physical, mechanical, building block style training without the organic perception of training at all thrown into that equation. You know what I mean? Like your ability to perceive your body is a thing.
Oh, 100%.
That needs to be trained.
Absolutely.
It's not just squat, bench, deadlift, X amount of weight, and suddenly you'll be Superman and you can leap over buildings. You probably have to also train to leap over buildings.
You do. Or at the very least, you need to be able to stand on a building and look over. Yeah. Which a lot of people can't really do. Dude, it's huge, man. I mean, depends on what your goals are. If your goals are just to be really good at squatting, benching, and deadlifting, there's not a lot of real risk there.
It's a completely controlled environment.
Completely controlled environment.
Where's John Larkin right now? He should be here in this conversation.
Totally
this is exactly his alley.
As in his strengths or his stumbling blocks?
Both.
Yeah,
both. I mean, he's so strong. He's so strong.
Yeah.
I watched him do a wide arm muscle up last week. Just out of nowhere.
Awesome.
He hasn't benched in forever, which is probably the healthiest thing that he could do for his shoulders. But his chest is so strong. From having benched previously, that he was able to easily hoist himself up.
Yeah,
he's benching double body weight.
Yeah, he doesn't weigh that much.
Yeah.
And he's super, super strong.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, the whole psychological aspect of it is something that I naturally excel in.
Yeah.
And it's something that a lot of people have a lot of trouble with.
Yeah.
I'm not nearly as strong as Steve Tripp, obviously.
Right.
But psychologically, I'm probably able to do something. Or Thor, yeah. But he's psychologically further than I am.
Yeah.
So it's hard to really, Yeah, like Mustard and Ketchup Man, the Condiment King in Batman, one of the villains.
No.
His shtick is that his only weapons are a tube of mustard and ketchup, and he shoots them in your face as he robs banks.
That's terrible.
Yeah. I'd imagine that dude hasn't graduated to guns yet because of a psychological hurdle.
Right.
Despite his extensive firearm training, well, firing things from his arms. Yeah, so it's, you know, you could train all you want, but unless you psychologically get into the right place of like, oh, I can kill a person with a gun and not just shoot ketchup in their eyes.
Right.
You're never going to be able to do it.
You could probably kill a person with ketchup.
We do in this country every day with diabetes. Yeah,
That's true.
You know, just yeah.
Does he generate his own ketchup and
No,
mustard?
no,
Like
it's a
Spider-Man does in Tobey
Fortunately
Maguire
not.
movies?
Fortunately not.
Huh.
That brings up a lot of really disgusting hygiene issues.
Yeah. Imagine he's just like sitting at home generating different types of ketchup.
Yeah, I'm just glad he didn't start shooting mayo.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's the psychological component is really, really huge.
Yeah. Obviously your work totally
Oh, yeah.
envelops you in that aspect of it.
Yeah, exactly.
What happened last week?
Oh, with this?
Yeah.
I got lit on fire. Yeah.
And some of it came off and...
Yeah. I mean, that's the short answer. The long answer is that it was for... I had to be lit on fire for a fire stunt. And that what I had to do is I had to take one arm that was on fire, loop it underneath, and light the other arm because it can only ignite me from one side. And when I did that, I wiped off some of the gel on the back of my hand, and at like the 30-second or 40-second mark, it just roasted me. Yeah. So some nice second-degree burns. Then we did another take.
Can you grasp anything with that hand right now? Yeah.
Yeah, I got full functionality, full mobility. Yeah. Like I was gonna go to a doctor, and then I realized that like, nah.
Yeah.
So.
As long as you keep it clean, right?
Yeah, I've been very meticulous about keeping it clean, and I need to keep it super. I haven't trained at all in the past week since this happened.
Yeah.
Because I want to give this just enough to focus my energy on letting this heal.
Yeah.
Because I've got another stunt gig coming up on 2 days from now.
Yeah.
In which, you know, I have to have I can't have a bandage on.
Right.
So it needs to heal as much as possible by then, and then whatever happens, happens.
Can you have a fake hand on?
Just chop it right off and then screw another one on.
Yeah. What are you gonna do? The skin's kind of like...
It's gonna tear. It's just gonna be bad. Yeah. The blisters are gonna rip off, I'm sure, yeah. But...
What's the next stunt? Can you talk about it?
The one I'm gonna do.
You're gonna...
yeah, I don't know what it's for. I think it's for a TV show.
Yeah.
I can't really go into too much details about it, but it's a stunt involving water. So like, you know, I have to be bound in water, like my character is. And that's really all I can, you know, say.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's cool. So I mean, you know, like with stunt work, it's basically like you have to overcome the psychological hurdle first, as opposed to last.
Yeah.
With training, it's last.
Right.
You know, like you train all the things that you can do.
Yeah, it's
like,
boring.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
opposite.
with rock climbing, right? You get strong, and then you climb.
Yeah.
You know, then you start gradually going up higher than you would be comfortable with before, or you transition over to free climbing or top roping or whatever. But you always start at a point where you're comfortable.
Yeah.
You know, like where you're like, this is within my capabilities.
Yeah.
But with stunt work, it's the opposite. Someone calls you and says, hey, we need you to crash a school bus.
Yeah.
And you go, yeah, sure, no problem.
Right.
And then when the phone call ends, you go online and go, how am crash school bus?
Yeah.
And hopefully not get put on any FBI lists.
Right.
But you know, it's that inverse.
If you do it encrypted like that, you're solid.
Totally good. Totally good.
Yeah.
So you know, you agree to this stunt work, and it has to be within your, like, so you have to like expand the things that you've already done. And it's like, all right, well, I've crashed cars, and all right, well, I've been lit on fire, so I can, you know, I feel like I can do this. Like, this is within my wheelhouse, despite never having done it before.
Yeah.
So
I mean, very specific scenarios, right? Like every time it's like a
It's
slightly
totally
different, very
different thing.
specific scenario.
yeah,
I have to go down this many flights of stairs
exactly,
and around a corner.
exactly.
Yeah. And
So-
on fire this time.
Hopefully not. Sometimes it's super boring. Sometimes
Yeah.
it's just like stand near this car as it drives by you really fast.
Huh.
So you're 10 feet away as the car does like 90 around a corner.
Yeah.
So
In stunt work, are you looking to get to the point of Damien Walters style stunt work? No.
no, I
Right.
mean Damian Walters was a gymnast first.
Right.
You know, he was an acrobatics
Right.
you know,
Specialist
first,
And that's what he wanted to do. I'm
exactly,
guessing.
and then that just really translates well into film.
Yeah.
So they took an expert and they brought him in, you know, to the stunt world, and he does phenomenal. You know, then he learned all the stunt stuff, like how to take a punch, you know, how to fall, how to, you know, I don't know that he does any driving stuff, but you know, he learned all these.
He gets into cars
He does get it
through the window,
Yeah, through
folding
like
himself in half.
30 miles an hour.
Yeah.
You know? Fucking ridiculous.
I think I saw a reel of him for like 20 minutes straight. He's just figuring out different ways to get into a car, like an entertaining way of getting into a car.
Of course.
That was really cool.
The guy is amazing.
Yeah.
So my approach would be stunt work first,
Yeah.
and then anything else after that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what would you like to do moving forward with your training? Like, what are you thinking about?
The cross functionality stuff.
Yeah. So I just bought a functional patterns course. This goes deeper into a hierarchy of what I would consider more basic human needs, and prioritizes that, where you're running and climbing and
Hookers and coke.
way up. Learning how to cook food functionally
Yes.
on the stove,
I functionally cook my food in the microwave.
on a fire
Yeah.
in the middle of the woods.
Well, yeah, of course.
It's just
The microwave itself
Totally
is on
natural.
fire.
yeah.
You know, the door is open. And I put the kindling inside.
So the functional pattern stuff is it's not so linear with movement basically. So that's what's probably gonna save you more than anything. I look at the strength training that we did as a way to increase like the horsepower of the car, right? It doesn't necessarily make you better at driving the car, but it does increase the amount of power you have,
Yeah.
tremendously. You just learn how to like push through.
Yep,
Right?
Absolutely.
But if you have no focus on biomechanics, I think that it can be a detriment to your body.
Yeah, I
You know?
mean, you know, there's, if you want to stick with the car analogy, you can literally blow up the engine. You can twist the frame of the car by turning it too fast.
Yeah.
You know, if the car has too much horsepower, if it's been modified after its stock,
Yeah.
and it's really easy to like just take a wrong turn and have the chassis of the car twist, and the car is useless.
Have you done this?
Have I?
I know you did some stunt driving, yeah.
Yeah, I did. No, just the school bus.
Yeah.
That came close to that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's like, you know, I'm very glad that we went through the strength stuff first,
Yeah.
because I feel strong. You
Yeah,
know?
right,
I mean,
right.
I can maneuver my body in a way that makes sense for me personally. But I'm really excited to do the cross,
The functional
functional
patterns,
pattern stuff.
Yeah.
So what my goal or what I'm looking forward to or hopeful to get out of this is being able to move in awkward ways that, you know, that come up in real life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, sometimes you need to climb through the wreckage of something, or sometimes, you know, you need to, like, while you're climbing a wall, you need to be able to reach over at weird angles to save yourself.
Yeah.
And you don't want to be like just destroying everything internally.
Yeah.
Because you've never worked those
Yeah.
ranges of motion.
Or look
before.
really awkward doing it.
Yeah.
In your case.
Yeah.
You're right. That would probably get
Can't.
you like canned.
Yeah, you know, yeah.
You're just like,
that would
you
be
just
great.
don't know how to move your body at all. You're just a friggin' robot. So yeah, definitely running. Like definitely sprinting is going to be high on that list. And I know you're into that. a tremendous amount. So we'll definitely have a lot of sprinting involved in your training coming up. What was I gonna say? I want to boast a little bit. I was able to get halfway up a 5'10".
Badass, man.
Yeah. Sarah was climbing a 5'8" at the same time as I was hitting a 5'10". I was like, awesome. I stopped because she was right next to me, and she possibly was going to come down on me during the climb. So I was like, I'll just save this for next time. But yeah, it was awkward as hell. And
context: 5'10" is climbing a wall in rock climbing.
Yeah,
it's a
decently hard wall.
It's a really hard wall. For schlubs like us.
Yeah.
And that was with top roping, right?
Yeah, that was audible at Rock Spot.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exciting.
That's cool.
So I guess the training's working out. That's the training that I'm doing.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And to put it in perspective, like you were comfortable doing like 5'7", 5'8".
When we were top roping last year.
Yeah.
I was doing 5'5" to 5'7" for reps.
Yeah.
So we were doing up downs, I think, at that point. So we were just training like grip endurance and just like trying to get the beat on like what the hell climbing is without trying something that's so hard that you pop a finger off.
Yeah.
So instead of just like hammering that stuff, we were staying on the wall as long as possible. And I've continued this type of training the entire time. I haven't really attempted too much that's way outside my comfort zone because I just don't see it as anything more than addiction to fatigue. So
totally a thing.
You don't get a lot out of it, and you get really annoyed that you're not doing something. So why the hell would that be your training? It just doesn't make sense. It's like putting the maximum amount of weight on a bar and just going up to it every time and being like, well, I guess I'll try to do this today, instead of having any sort of progression to it. So my current training is tapering from the longest amount of duration to the shortest amount of duration on the wall. And I'm in a taper right now. I'm in like a phase where I'm hitting 2 to 3 minutes of climbing at a time instead of awesome. 30 seconds of climbing or less. Yeah. So obviously the energy systems that I'm working and the benefits that I'm getting out of it are different than if I were to just do a really hard boulder that lasts like 10 seconds.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where I'm going around like a hard cave or something where I just gotta like maneuver my body.
Yeah.
But I can see that like I'm gaining benefit from it that I did not have before. Yeah. And it's crazy because in my own training, I've had to let go of a lot of the traditional barbell work that I was doing to be able to do that because and this sounds like I'm giving excuses, I just simply did not have enough energy. When I would show up to practice climbing, I was just like, all right, quarter tank of gas, and here we go.
Yeah.
And so, even if I was doing the endurance type training, it wasn't beneficial enough because I wasn't hitting enough volume. So I'm hitting 40 to 55 climbs a session right now, as opposed to
that's amazing.
8 to 12. I think I was hitting before for reps.
Absolutely.
And
it's good that you're going through cycles. I'd imagine that after you do a lot of the endurance fatigue stuff, you might switch over to another cycle that is expanding your top end capacity of like difficulty. So it's like, all right, well, what's the next size up? Like it would be a let's say like a V4. What do you want?
I'm at right now. I hit a V4 the other day for a double. Flashed it.
That's
for
awesome.
A double.
That's awesome.
I hit another V4 before that I did not hit for a double because it was very difficult. I put that one on Instagram.
V4 is V's rather are the bouldering systems. So it's when you don't use any ropes or harnesses or whatever. You're just climbing on the side of the. It's usually only like 10, 15 feet or so.
Yeah. And
when you fall on a lot of mats and stuff.
Yeah. So I've gotten over that too. So when I was like over 200 pounds and falling, I was thinking about falling. I was like, I'm gonna break my ankles, my knees, my back, my head,
and break my will to live.
Because like falling at 205 was difficult. But I'm like 191 now, and my reaction time is better because I'm fresher going into my sessions.
Yeah.
So I feel like I can feel the ground coming up at me, and now I can react immediately to fall correctly.
Absolutely.
And a lot of the repetition has taken the thinking out of it too. So like when I started my cycle, I was doing the Mile High Challenge.
Yep.
So I was doing 10 climbs, and I would hit the easiest 10 times. So like after a while, you're like, oh my god, this is taking forever. I'm just gonna do it the easy way, and you start like
skipping holds.
You skip holds and you just reach as long as you can, and so you're sprinting up the wall.
Basically.
Right.
Basically.
And so after doing that 10 times, I was like, well, I'm not gonna walk all the way down. I'm gonna fall because it's easier, and you start
faster.
falling from higher and higher height. And so you just get the reps in. You know what I mean? You fall 60 to 70 times a session.
Yeah.
You're used to it, you know what I mean, after a couple of weeks.
Absolutely. And just a quick aside, when you get to the top of a wall, any wall, you're totally comfortable up there, right?
Yeah.
Because you've done it so many times.
Yeah.
That psychological hurdle has been overcome.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
just by putting yourself in that situation constantly, you don't care anymore.
Yeah. So I got the Mile High. I'm still waiting to hear back from Jamie about the shirt because I'm excited about that.
They are coming in.
But I did get the Mile High done in 6 sessions, and how I did that was I broke it up into here's the minimum amount that I need to hit, and I would always exceed that.
Yeah.
And I knew that going into a session, if I could at least hit 30 climbs, that I would get it done by the end of the month.
Yeah.
And so I hit 72 climbs at best. That one was difficult. That took me an hour and 20 minutes. And I would also limit it to an hour. So I had like these parameters that I came up with. And to go back to what you were saying about how I'll intensify that over time, yes, definitely. I have some ideas about how I'm going to resemble what I would do with a bar on a wall. By changing the training cycle and the intensity and the volume and all that stuff, I'm going to use those rough parameters as loading parameters for climbing.
Gotcha.
Right? And so I'll have my sports-specific training somewhat programmed. And I know that everybody in there is looking at me like I have 10 heads, which is fine with me.
Totally.
Because I'm definitely making gains.
You're definitely making progress, man. And that's all that really matters.
That's all that freaking matters.
Dude, and that's another
Some
thing
semblance
too.
of a plan.
You know, that whole that whole ego climbing thing, or ego lifting, or ego whatever it is. It's not just of like, oh, what am I doing? But it's also extends to what does everyone else see me doing?
Yeah.
And if you can overcome that specifically, you're golden. Yeah. There's so many people in those gyms that are so hilariously better than I am. That like me feeling super accomplished, knocking out like a V9. What's up?
I'm totally. I don't want to interrupt, but I want to add to that idea.
You're in it. You have to be in the video.
Oh,
so
gosh,
on the couch like a puppet.
Yeah. Well, no. As far as I remember when I was trying to learn how to skateboard because my boyfriend at the time knew how to skateboard, and I was like, I want to go with you and your friends because they would just leave and whatever. I was so mortified about people judging how bad I was that I would get up at like 5 in the morning and go to the skate park like almost every day and skate by myself for like an hour at 5 in the morning because I was so absolutely horrified about someone seeing how bad I was. And I made progress, but it wasn't that great. When I started doing it with other people who like openly saw how much I sucked, they could be like, hey, do this, it's way easier. And immediately I'd be like, and so like those embarrassment days, like I could have avoided like a month of falling and hurting myself, and I don't know. I mean, I learned some things. You need
to build up to that too, though.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, part of it was just not being embarrassed to just like stand there holding it and be like, I'm fake. But, like after a month of falling.
This is the Avril Lavigne days.
I never. Well, no, that was like 13. But then when I was like 18, they thought I looked like I got called Avril Lavigne. I had pink in my hair.
Obnoxious.
Yeah.
So that was and that ended quick.
Definitely.
No, that was Pratty. That was like my sophomore year.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Anyhow, that was my I was just listening about that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, as far as like the whole, people
being
thinking you're faking it, everyone is faking it all the time.
Yeah.
Everyone.
Yeah.
Even the professionals.
Truth.
It's crazy. Like, some of the people that I train with for stunt work and stuff, they have a lot of the same concerns at a different level than like as I do at a much lower level.
Well, I mean, to some extent, like getting set on fire, no matter how many times you do it, there are still things that are scary and still things that could go wrong, and like.
Because every set is different, every situation is different.
The wind is different.
Exactly. The team surrounding you is different.
Yeah.
And it's just like, everyone has these same performance fears, you know, and concerns in general.
Yeah.
So you're not unique in that. So there's nothing to really be afraid of, you know. You just got to understand that people are going to look at you differently, and that's all right. It's fine.
Yeah. So I was ranting to Sarah about the method that I was using. We recorded it, and I turned around, and there's a guy, like an older guy that was climbing.
Yeah.
And he's like going like this to me, like, "You're totally right." And I was like, I got him on camera saying.
Nice.
Hey, you never posted that.
I never posted it, not yet. But my critique was that I see people looking at the obstacles more than performing them. And there's a
Looking
whole
at the wall more than
psychological thing with that. Like,
Totally.
I've done that. I did that with Olympic weightlifting and thought that it was more complicated than it is. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And just, you're not benefiting from it from thinking about it so much. Break it down to something that allows you to do more than think about what you're doing, so that you can get the benefit of doing that thing and then learn from what you did. And approach it. I don't know, maybe it's because that climbing is more intuitive to me than weightlifting was, that I'm able to approach it in that manner, because I don't think that I'm in general a tactile learner. I really do think that I'm pretty analytical with stuff.
Absolutely, yeah. Hence
but,
all the wall of books over here that you can't see.
Right. But John was saying to me at one point, he's like, "Man, you're an intuitive climber." I'm like, I don't know. I guess maybe it's because we did so much parkour stuff, and
Maybe.
like it's just like.
Well, you have really good kinesiology, proprioception. Yeah.
Ability.
Proprioception.
Espresso's ready. I'm going to Tings for 20 minutes to look at the event
Great.
space.
Yeah, so that proprioception carries over in everything that's tactile based. So parkour, climbing, fighting, another big one. So yeah, man, it's.
And that one. Been doing that since I was 5, so I suppose I should have some sort of semblance of understanding what the hell's going on.
Yeah.
Weightlifting was weird because it's a linear pattern of like kind of doing a backflip with a bar in your hands and then catching it.
Yeah.
And that was something that I just had never trained. Throwing myself backwards in general is just something that I had not trained, I think. Now that I think about it. You know what I mean? If you were to break it down into a more simple pattern.
Yeah, even
just
judo,
like,
you're going forward more
forward,
than
like
backwards.
mostly forward.
Yeah.
Sacrifice throws.
Yeah.
I was alright at those. But yeah, just throwing myself backwards just felt weird to me because I'm like, well, I have no idea where I'm going in space, and I'm gone.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, then you just have to kind of wait for the end to happen.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like when I do a backfall, the backfalls in the stunt community are some of the most difficult because you don't see where you're going.
Right.
So, I mean, you could miss the bag entirely. You have no idea.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you know enough that you set yourself up for success, not for failure.
How the hell do you do that without breaking your arms? Like, because you have to flail, right?
Oh, yeah, of course. I mean, it depends on what they want. You know, if they want a corpse to fall, then you fall like a corpse.
Yeah.
A lot of things that people don't understand is that somewhere you get hurt.
Yeah.
They pay you to get hurt.
Huh.
I mean, you can do it as efficiently as possible, but sometimes you need to get hit by a car. Sometimes you need to be wearing shorts and t-shirt and take a dump off a motorcycle at 10 miles an hour. You just get hurt. That's just how it is, you know. So you can train your rolls, you can train your back falls, and your all that shit. But with the bigger stunts like the high falls, you have to do it correctly. So you can flail up to a certain point, and then you have to transition to the crash landing. You know, you have to basically be on your back. So you can do a header where you're falling toward the ground, and then at a certain point you're out of frame, and then you could flip over and land on your back.
Yeah.
Or you're doing like a Superman fall, and suicide was when you go straight down. A header is when you like jump forward and you kind of like pancake down, and that's fine too. But at a certain point, you have to throw your arm underneath you, and that will rotate your body so that you land on your back. There's a very specific way that you have to land.
Yeah, these are all skills of like moving your body. You know?
Exactly, and that's that's why I'd like to. I'm looking forward to getting into the functional pattern.
Yeah.
Before we get back into that, and to address that whole like you're focusing too much on your problems rather than doing them. Whenever
Yeah.
I try a new climb, I don't like beta. For the first
Same,
time? Yeah.
same, absolutely. I didn't look at all at what I was doing.
Exactly.
Why?
Exactly.
Why? The point is that you should. I mean, embrace the mystery of what you're doing. Like, just be like, oh, this is this. Okay, good. Let's go.
Yep.
And just
Don't-
start moving.
Just try it.
Yeah.
Because there's no repercussions.
Yeah, it's not like putting a mystery amount of weight on a bar
Exactly.
and getting underneath it. You know, there's really nothing that bad that can happen from it, as far as I can tell.
You just either
The cord wraps around your neck and you hang yourself on the way down.
yeah, there's shit.
Oh,
But with
man.
bouldering specifically,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I'll go up to something that is at the top end of my wheelhouse.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say a 5'10". I'm sorry, not V10.
V5?
V6.
V6.
I don't even know what I was doing.
I think you were
was.
hitting V5s.
Was I think I was even doing
So-
more. I was doing V6s at
Yeah.
the very top end. But yeah, so I would go and like when they put up a new route, I'd walk over to it and give it a quick look, not more than like 5 seconds.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then I would just start climbing.
Yeah.
And I would try like hell to flash it.
Well, you get a decent amount of information in that 5 seconds.
You do.
You
You
do.
absolutely
Like, you
do.
can see most of what you need to do.
So usually what I'll do is I'll go hand,
Yeah.
transition, hand, okay. And then that's it. That 2 seconds or whatever is 2 to 5 seconds is all I need to just get started. And then everything else is kind of figuring it out, you know?
Yeah.
But after my first attempt, and it has to be an attempt, if I get stuck on something and then I fall, then I'll take a little bit longer and go, okay, so what did I get stuck on? You know, was that a strength issue? Was that a psychological issue? Was that a flexibility issue? Was that, you know, a not being able to legitimately figure out where to go next?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
sometimes, I mean, I've worked on a climb for, I don't know, maybe half hour. And then someone's like, oh, yeah, start with that leg first. And
Yeah.
put your hip into that wall. And you go and do it, and it's like, oh, shit, obviously.
Yeah.
And you just go right up, you know?
Right.
So
I
some of
remember
it's
seeing the
technique.
slab one that you were doing, and I was like, I had no idea how to start that. Where you were kind of like bent to the side.
Oh,
You're
yeah,
on
that's
a weird angle. I was
yeah.
like, why would you start that? That doesn't look like anything that I would try to do normally.
Yeah, of course.
Like, I'm gonna fold myself into a pancake, put myself on the wall, and then start the
Yeah.
movement afterwards. It's just so weird.
Yeah, that one specifically, it was like
A gum
decent-
drop
A gum drop.
that you stand on,
Yep.
and you have to make yourself into a U
Yes.
and
So-
touch your foot.
You have to basically you hook one foot underneath it and you push down at the same time, and then you do like the YMCA.
Yeah.
But you keep going
Only
all
to
the
the
way to the
left.
side, and you have to basically start the climb with both your feet and your hands on this gum drop, on this hold, and then once you touch it, you can come all the way back up.
Yeah.
Adjust your feet, you know, and make sure you're still tight to the wall, and then continue that way. So it's a lot of it's technique, man. But trying it, just trying it is so worthwhile.
Yeah. What the hell else was I talking about? Oh, the top roping, the 5'10", that was cool. What else?
Yeah.
There's something else. I have no show notes for this, by the way, guys.
Totally off script.
We were originally excuse me. We were originally just talking about the Russian leg lifts. And we were gonna end it there,
This
but then we
is
kept
gonna be-
ranting for another 29 minutes.
Yeah, pretty much. This is gonna be a video for one person specifically.
Yeah. Steve Carroll.
Yep. This is for you, buddy. And it just kind of became a train wreck.
The hang-ups that I have gotten to so far in rock climbing have not had anything to do with psychological aspect, because I took that completely out of it in my training. I just have a plan,
Yeah.
and I'm just going to do the plan.
So many people don't though.
Yeah.
Specifically with rock climbing, it's kind of like, oh, let me just hit the wall and let me see what I'm a V6 climber. That's what I do.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna do like V5, 6, and
It's
hopefully
very
7.
interesting.
different approaches. I think that's definitely valuable to do it like that.
Yeah.
Like, all right, well, let me train just the top end and try to push myself in the
I
next
think for
bracket.
a time, like anything,
Absolutely.
for a time.
And then I think you're absolutely right. You need to go back down.
Yeah, you gotta
And-
rework the basics, right?
Yeah.
You can't just always be working at maximum.
No,
right?
Of course, yeah.
That's a huge thing. That's how you burn out. That's and that's how you always
That's
end
how
up
you
in pain
and how you get frustrated, yeah.
Absolutely. On a side note with that,
Yeah.
this might be a golden nugget for somebody out there.
Mm-hmm.
Your emotions about training are totally in alignment with what's physiologically happening with your body. If you are deathly scared of doing something, that's there to tell you that you don't know what the hell you're doing, and you probably shouldn't do it. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Taking emotions out of training and allowing a good plan of action to just propel you forward towards the unknown and inch yourself out of your comfort zone is what the plan is for.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have to think about the risk factor in what you're doing as much, because you should be training at a level like a 7 out of 10, right? 6 out of 20. I heard Steve say this yesterday. This is a great thing because the maximum amount kind of correlates with your heart rate. So yeah, it's a very interesting thing. I don't want to touch on that too much, but like if you think about like training at such a moderate level that no matter what you could go and do it and have that be your norm. That way you're willing to show up all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. 'Cause
Right?
you know that you can accomplish that, even if you feel like shit.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, everyone knows what it takes to make progress. It's pretty obvious what it takes to make progress. If it doesn't feel like progress, you're probably not making progress.
Yeah,
but that's if
consistency.
you actually need progress,
Yeah, there's the big thing,
right? Sometimes you don't need progress. Sometimes you need reps. Sometimes you just need to do stuff. You don't need to literally make progress all the time. Sometimes you need to fortify the area that you've gotten to
Make the foundation stronger.
to build a wider foundation before you climb up taller,
Yeah.
up the tower,
Yeah.
And that, if you're always pushing on the verge of new things, and you never settle back to rest, recover, or if you're always settling to rest and recover and you're never pushing the verge, you're not balancing out your training. So you have to have these kind of like planned areas where you say, today's the day that I push really hard.
Yeah.
And then the other areas are, I'm just putting in reps, right?
Absolutely.
It's like this in friggin' anything.
It is.
How many times did you have to fall to know how to fall?
Oh, Christ. So
There's
many
no way
times.
you did it right the first time, right?
There's no way I even did it intentionally the first time.
Right. Going way back.
Yeah. No, it's true though. So there's that difference between overcoming psychological hurdles and also not, throwing yourself completely into dangerous situations.
Yeah.
So like for instance, overcoming a psychological hurdle might be this climb is one level harder than I've ever done. So I'm going to climb up it halfway and work certain parts of it.
Yeah.
Thus getting me over the concept of like, oh no, I'm only a V5 climber. That's what I am. So if you start climbing V6s, V7s, V8s, even if it's just in certain spots, now you have experience on on levels that are much higher than yours. However, if you're like, well, I can't do, I'm comfortable at like V4, V5, and then you're like, all right, well that V10 over there, I'm going to throw myself at it as hard and as fast as possible. You might blow out your tendons. You might by doing
If you are physically capable enough to do
you are
it.
physically capable of doing it, you do these big sweeping motions. You might, tear something. You might pop something.
Yeah.
So going 100% at that thing that's too hard for you is not a good idea.
Right.
But training certain aspects of it to get your mind conditioned to the possibility of like, okay, I've capped myself. It's time to take that cap off and envision myself at this next tier.
Yeah.
Like, you're not going to throw...
Yeah, it's a huge portion, too.
Yeah.
Envisioning
yourself,
and where you're trying to go. That's it. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, no, it's just to relate it to, like, lifting and stuff. You're not going to walk in one day and go, like, all right, well, I'm going to throw an extra 100 pounds on my bench press.
And just see what happens.
Yeah, and just see what happens, you know?
Right.
That's not a psychological hurdle.
No.
You know, that's just...
It's physiological.
That's an ego. That's an ego thing.
Yeah.
You know? But if you're like, all right, well, I'm going to, with assistance, with a spotter, try to do 10% over my maximum.
Yeah.
Just to feel what that feels like and to envision myself as being a guy who can push, I don't know, 250, 300 pounds off his chest.
Yeah.
And doing that for 1 or 2 reps, that's overcoming a psychological hurdle.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know, again, with something as simple as strength training with a bar, you have a linear pattern. You got
Exactly.
like you can control most of those variables. When you get into something that's more like climbing, it's the route setter. That's an art. Like setting a route, like where you decide to put these handholds and like what kind of difficult challenge you're supposed to overcome.
And it changes too.
Yeah.
Like they'll not routinely, but they'll occasionally come back and go like, all right, well that was too difficult, so let me put that here instead.
Yeah.
Or that wasn't difficult enough, so let me put this volume in the way.
Right.
You know.
Right.
So that's a very organic process.
Yeah. Which is what makes it intriguing and gives you that aspect of variety and takes out the mechanical aspect of training, which, you know, damn, we are not robots. You know, with something like that, you take all the chaos and you try to push it into some of a line, like some semblance of order and progression.
Yeah.
But there's still an aspect of chaos to it.
It has to be.
And if there isn't, man, we get bored.
Oh, absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely.
Like that's the terrible part of doing such linear training, like where there is nothing outside of this. This is what it is, and you just plug and play, and you just do it.
Dude,
so
I'm still very glad I did squat, bench, deadlift.
Yeah.
But I have moved on past that.
Yeah, right. And you can revisit that stuff every so often, and kind of like, you know.
But that won't be a main crux of my training going forward.
No, because you're not a power lifter.
Exactly.
And
it doesn't interest me.
And even if you were a weightlifter, it's still there is so much more that you'd have to do to build the function of your body instead of just doing that thing. But that's I could go off on a huge blog post just on that.
So we're at 42 minutes.
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah.
I think this is a good one.
I think it is too.
It was a long one. I did not expect that to
It
happen.
started off as a 3-minute video.
Yeah, I was really just trying to make literally 60 seconds.
Oh wow.
Shout out to Heavy Metal Muscle.
Oh yeah, Martin Shirt.
Eddie. Shout out to CrossFit Providence.
Yep.
Shout out to Providence
Yeah.
There it is. It's right behind us.
Shout out to Little Coffees.
Little Coffees. To label-less bottles of water.
This video brought to you by Tangential Conversation that doesn't have a real beginning or end.